The Peter Greenberg Worldwide phone lines are open now. So call us at 1-888-887-3837. That's 1-888-88-PETER. Once again, here's your host, Peter Greenberg.
33 minutes after the hour, Peter Greenberg here with you from the peninsula in Shanghai, taking your calls at 888-887-3837. That's 888-88-PETER. If you can't get through on the phones, you know the drill. You email me to peter@petergreenberg.com with your name, phone number, question, or problem. We will solve it right here on the air, and of course, we'll deal with some of those emails just a little bit later. You know, I never get the right number. It depends on if you go through the latest United Nations figure. I used to say it's like 197 countries. Well, according to the United Nations, there's like 193 sovereign nations out there, and based on that, I can proudly tell you that I've been to 151 of them, which means I have about another 42 to go. I may never get to them, but then again, who's counting? My next guest may get to them. In fact, he's the youngest American to visit every single country in the world, and he is counting. He's actually visited 307 total countries, and yes, he's one of the world's most traveled people, and he can go one-on-one with me in our mileage programs any day of the week, and his name is Lee Abbamonte. Hey, Lee.
Hey, Peter. How you doing?
Now, we're talking about 307. That's 307 countries and territories, correct?
Correct, from the Traveler Century Club list.
Now, I'm a member of that club. I'm assuming you are, too.
Absolutely.
And in order to join that club, you have to have visited at least 100.
Correct.
So I'm in. You're in. But, I mean, they determine territories. I mean, little atolls is one of those 307, isn't it?
Yeah, they have a certain criteria, whereas if you're a certain number of nautical miles away from the mainland, or if you have X amount of population, or, for instance, in the case like Wake Island or Diego Garcia, they count military installations, which I don't really understand, but I try to abide by their
Well,
laws.
you know, but here's the way. If it's got a runway, it counts. How about that?
Well, there's a couple of places
that don't have
runways.
runways. Well, okay, how about this? If you can land there.
Yeah.
Okay, that means helicopter or boat, too.
Well, Tristan da Cunha counts, and you definitely cannot land there, and barely in a boat, and certainly not by plane or helicopter.
Yeah, and you've been there.
No, I haven't. Actually, that's one of the 14 I have left.
So how are you going to get there if you can't land there? You're just going to show up on a boat and touch it and go, okay, done, bye.
No, I don't do that, but there is actually two options. You can actually sail from South America on a boat that's doing a repositioning after the Antarctic cruise season, or actually there's a couple of cruise ships that go each year doing supply runs from Cape Town.
All right, so let's talk about this. You haven't been there.
Correct.
Where else?
There's actually 14 I haven't been to. 7 are the Antarctic territories, but December 4th I'm actually going to the South Pole and to Queen Maud Land. So I'll get the Norwegian claim of Antarctica plus the South Pole. I'm very excited about this. It's taken me about 5 years to put it together. So that'll knock 7 off the list. Then I'll have also...
By the way, what do you win at the end of this? You get a matching set of luggage and a copy of the home game? I mean...
I guess I get bragging rights, and I get to be the youngest person to complete it. But for me,
how old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, but when you think about that, that is young to do all that.
Oh, yeah, it's very young, and I'm well aware, and I know how fortunate I am, but it's also really fun, and I get to see everywhere and learn about places. And
all right, so when you get to see everywhere and learn about places, and all the places you've already been, which is more than 300, what's the one that absolutely was so completely different than what you expected?
I have to say Libya, because I was actually there during the Arab Spring. I actually snuck in through the back door of Egypt during the war. Actually, I was on your show from Libya.
I remember. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I've never been treated better in my entire life by any people than I was by the Libyan people. I actually was taken in by a Libyan dissident who was actually a UN diplomat at the time, and he hadn't seen his family in 40 years. And he basically smuggled me across the border, and he hadn't seen his family in 40 years, and he invited me to stay with them. Can you imagine?
But you know what? That's the Arab hospitality.
It really is amazing.
I mean, you know, I've always said, if you want to figure out hospitality, you go to the Middle East. It's a different kind of hospitality than we have here in Asia, which wrote the book on hospitality.
Yeah.
But if you ask, here's how it works. If you ask an Egyptian what time of day it is, you'll never get the answer because he's too busy inviting you to his house for dinner.
Yeah.
Right? If you ask an Israeli the time of day, you'll never get it because he's too busy telling you how tough it is to be in that part of the world. And if you ask a Lebanese what time of day it is, you'll never find out what time of day it is because he's too busy showing you how much money he spent for his watch.
Couldn't agree with you more on all three of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Arab hospitality is really amazing. We think in America that we have it really well. They have it better than we do. They do it better. India is another one that does hospitality really well.
And where was the place that you visited that was the most disappointing?
The most disappointing would probably be Nigeria, and I would probably also answer the same for my least favorite country if you were to ask, because just the corruption there is really just incredible, and I was shaken down by cops at least 3 times. And the only place on earth that I've ever gotten the wrong amount of money at an ATM machine, and it happened multiple times.
You got shortchanged.
It wasn't like it was as
or
if
maybe you didn't get shortchanged. Maybe they gave you more.
No, here's the thing. It was like I asked for $100, and I didn't get 98. I got like 13. Twice.
So here's how stupid you are. You went back to the same machine?
You know, I went to a different bank, and it was the 2 banks that advertise on CNN all the time, and it still didn't work.
Did you write a letter? No.
Imagine this. I walked into the bank and told them that I got the wrong amount of money. And
they laughed at you.
Exactly.
That's their version of hospitality. Oh, very funny. Another ATM story. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I tell them to look at the cameras. They're like, oh, the cameras don't work. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, Nigeria is an interesting place because it's an OPEC country. They're a big oil producer, and yet it is so screwy.
You know, a lot of those countries in that part of the world, from Nigeria down to Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Angola, Cabinda, you name it. And, you know, those oil-controlled countries, they have so much money, but they don't share it with the people.
Lee Abbamonte, the youngest American to visit every country in the world. Stick with us, Lee. I want to talk about a few more of those crazy countries when we come back to the Peninsula Hotel here in Shanghai in China. Peter Greenberg returns right after this. And get out your ATM card because we're just getting started on Nigeria. Back with more right after this.
Call now to talk to Peter Greenberg at 1-888-887-3837 or email him at peter@petergreenberg.com. This segment of Peter Greenberg Worldwide is proudly brought to you by
Travel Guard Insurance. For travel insurance plans for the unexpected, see your travel agent or visit TravelGuard.com for affordable travel insurance protection from Travel Guard.
Now back to Peter Greenberg.
It's 43 minutes after the hour. Peter Greenberg here with you from the Peninsula Hotel here in Shanghai, taking your calls at 888-887-3837. That's 888-Peter. And if you can't get through on the phones, you know the drill. You email me to peter@petergreenberg.com with your name, phone number, question or problem. We will solve it right here on the air. We've been talking with Lee Abbamonte, the youngest American to visit every single country in the world. But there are some territories you still haven't visited. We were just talking about your wonderful ATM experiences in Nigeria. What lessons, other than never go to an ATM machine in Nigeria, have you come up with overriding lessons after visiting that many places?
You know, based actually off the ATM issue, I always bring cash. A lot of people are afraid to bring cash. I think, especially in Africa and lesser developed countries, you should always have cash. And I carry different denominations and different currencies of sterling, euros, and dollars. I think that's the best way to go. And if you just use common sense, no one's going to try to rob you.
Well, here's the deal. I agree with you on the cash, but I do something else. Before I leave the U.S., I go to a bank, and I get $400 in $2 bills. So I carry 200 $2 bills with me everywhere I go. They're legal tender. They're great conversation pieces. No one's ever seen them. And they remember you. So if you want to tip the maid, the bellman, the sky cap, I mean, it's great.
It's funny you said that because I actually have 2 $2 bills in my wallet at all times, but that's for a different reason. I just have it for luck, and I'm not really sure why.
Now, not every bank has them, so you have to call ahead to say, "Do you have any?" And they kind of go, "Oh, look, go in the back room, and they have them, and you take them with you."
Hey, Thomas Jefferson is an underrated president.
Well, he's on the $2 bill. All right, so cash is one of your lessons.
Yeah.
What's another one?
I think that learning the basics in the languages in the countries that you're visiting, like please, thank you, hello, I think really go a long way in kind of endearing you to the people. Obviously, it's difficult in some languages, and you can't read languages in certain countries, like, for instance, China, unless you've actually really studied the characters. But I think it's really important to know the basics, just even if it's like 2 or 3 words.
Now, we mentioned your ATM experience in Nigeria, but Africa still is your favorite continent. Why?
I love going to Africa because I think it's the most diverse continent. I think it has so much to offer, and really you just never know what's going to happen. And if you look at the different regions, like North Africa, you know, is mainly Muslim, and it's desert in the Sahara and whatnot, but it's completely different from West Africa, Central, Eastern, and certainly Southern Africa.
See, I'm a big fan of Tunisia, and nobody knows why, because I have to keep telling them, right? Look where they're. It's an hour-and-a-half flight from Rome. Mm-hmm. Figure that one out, right? They got the ruins in Carthage. They got the desert. They got tremendous history. And for those people who really want to look hard, you don't have to look hard to find an incredible history, even in Jewish tradition and religion. There's a whole Jewish community there. They've got it all, right?
Not to mention, not only did they have the Jewish tradition, but they also have a lot of World War II history. They actually have, I think it's the largest U.S. burial ground from World War II. Just outside Tunis, near Carthage as well.
And who knew? And go back to your favorite place, Libya. Let's not forget Tobruk. And right, I mean, oh my goodness, watch the Richard Burton movie about Tobruk. My God,
Tobruk is where I actually spent my time there, because at the time I couldn't go to Benghazi or to Tripoli because of the war. Obviously, they hadn't taken over that part yet, but I do plan to go later this year and check out Tripoli, and especially Leptis Magna, which is supposed to be the best preserved Roman ruins in the world.
And that's true. That is absolutely true about Libya. People don't realize the ruins they've got there. The people have never been able to truly appreciate in a mass market way.
Right. And sticking on North Africa, Algeria, of all places, has some of the best coastline I've seen. And their Medina and the Sikhs there in Algiers are absolutely fantastic and beautiful.
Okay, I got one for you. And you've probably been there, but nobody realizes what a great coastline they've got. Is Albania.
Albania does have a great coastline. They have some World Heritage sites down in Butrint, and it's also, I can't remember the name of the beach in the very south there, but it's just north of Corfu, and it's just a beautiful place. Really, Saranda, that's the name.
Exactly. So if you're going to, look, most Americans don't even go to these places.
Correct.
But you can now. That's the beautiful thing about it. You can go, and they're happy to see you.
You know what else is cool about Albania is they have, you've obviously been there, they have all those little pods.
Those air raid shelters. Oh my God. the guy who was the dictator there was named Hoxha.
Yeah.
And nobody had any weapons. Mm-hmm. They weren't going to be attacked, but he was convinced that the West was going to attack him. So every day they had these like half moon, they looked like bad falsies, and they had these air raid drills where people had to run out with wooden guns. I mean, they were not rifles; they were just carved pieces of wood to make believe they were guns, and get into these little air raid shelters and go bang, bang, bang. It was like a joke. Woody Allen couldn't have done it better.
It's a case study in paranoia, it really is. And if actually you talk to Albanians, and I have a few friends there who showed me around when I was there, and they'll tell you that they had a lot of their firsts
in those little shelters. Let's go have another air raid joke. Okay, honey.
So a lot of teenagers love it.
I love it. Lee Abbamonte, the youngest American to visit every single country in the world. Man, thanks for joining us once again.
Anytime, Peter.
You got it. When we come back, more of your calls and your emails. And our managing editor, Sarah Kashala, when we return from the Peninsula Hotel in Shanghai right after this.
The Peter Greenberg Worldwide phone lines are open now, so call us at 1-888-88-PETER. That's 1-888-887-3837.